Talia Radiwal, and I lead research at Fjord. But I promise not to play any favourites with any Fjord members on this panel. Just perhaps as a question to kick off with, I think, Cameron, you started with a very adamant and strong call to action for this panel. And I think I'd like to give the panel a right of reply to what you said. To briefly recap, it was that as service designers, we are designing lives and lifestyles, and that there's a responsibility that comes with that, and that it should be a shared responsibility. So the question to the panel is, where have you seen, or where would you like to see the kinds of collaboration or knowledge exchange where we've really seen service design practices being leveraged and evolving in some way? So I'll leave that open to whoever would like to answer first.
I'm excused.
Well, maybe I'll just hop on a bit about what I said earlier. I think that politics is something that could really do with redesigning. And I think that designers have... And I think that we all here are not only, service design enthusiasts, but we're also part of the electorate. And I think that we have a responsibility to be engaging with our elected officials. And I think that we could offer them so much in terms of how legislation and policy is developed in closer collaboration with citizens.
So I would say that I think humanitarian efforts are ripe for service design, and especially around crisis moments. I think there's, considering the plethora of people that get involved in it and the number of just logistics that need to occur, I think that it's a perfect area for that.
My attempt at an answer is that when design, and especially service design, is used strategically, it really helps businesses come together across traditional silos. So if you think about the different perspectives, technology, design, and business, the reason that good ideas, good service design ideas fail, in my experience, has more to do with the inability for the organization to implement it, the inability for organizations to actually flex across silos, traditional boundaries, and so on. But design can be an amazing catalyst in turning the operation into something that is flexible and moldable. So I would like to see service design applied very much at the heart of businesses and government in the future.
And with that microphone, so it's now your turn. So that's fine. So I have to throw this. Apparently, I am hesitant, but I'm going to give it a go. Woo!
Christian.
Hello? Oh, okay.
Very impressive.
So this is kind of a tough question, but something I haven't heard about at this conference at all. And, specifically in the Fjord presentation, you had that slide which basically says the future is continuous innovation. Now, if this was an industrial design conference, I'd basically I'd pose a counter critique of that, saying, if the future is continuous innovation, then the future is also continuous manufacture and continuous consumption in the global south. Whatever you're innovating here will get made somewhere. And I'm just wondering, because I haven't heard that perspective at all, what is service design in relation to the global south? What is service design in relation to cultures that have completely different models and ways of defining service? CMU talked about alternatives, and I'm just wondering if I could get some sort of, there is no representation here from parts of the world that, I'm just wondering if you have something to say on that.
So I'm wondering if the answer is don't. I'm wondering the extent to which we think service design is this beautiful magic potion that solves all problems in all places, or whether it is often the handmaiden of capitalism and certain types of unsustainable futures, in which case, I would be worried about thinking that it should have an answer to the global south. It might be interesting to say it's something that should not be a way of framing that particular problem.
That's a really interesting perspective. My answer was actually going to be, I don't know. And that's the honest answer. I don't actually know. But I think it's an intriguing question.
Well, also considering that the majority of the world's population lives in the global south. It's not in the global north.
Yeah.
The bulk of the world's population is in the global south.
That's right. So it's a profound and important question. And because it's an important question, we've just internally within Fjord funded an engagement where we will spend time trying to collaborate with people in the Congo, especially the eastern part of Congo. So this is the poorest country in the world. Enormous country from a landmass perspective, enormous in terms of population, but the poorest. And we want to try and actually go on a quest to answer your question. How can design help that community find a way where it can actually connect with NGOs? Because right now it's so poor, there's so little infrastructure that NGOs that want to invest in the country, in that part of the country, actually have nothing to connect into. So can design actually be the bridge? So that's the hypothesis, and that's what we want to experiment with. But because we're just starting it now, I actually don't know what the answer is.
We've got time for one more quick question, I've been told. So if someone can throw that thing to someone, and one more very, very quick question.
Woo.
Well, is it on? Here we go. Well, my name is Rachel Mann, and I'm here not as a designer, but as a scientist. My background's in biology, and I'm hearing a lot of language that really resonates with me, thinking about ecosystems, living things. And so I guess my questions, there's sort of two questions. One is there an opportunity to have more of a conversation with people who know more about these types of living systems, and what can we learn from what we know about that? And I guess kind of related to the question here, if we're thinking about living services, things that live die. And so how are we thinking about that life cycle of we're going to create something, but we need to be okay that at some point that's going to end, and what is the plan for that?
So I love hearing you say that. I actually, 13 years ago, left the field of design and went and got an MSc in something called holistic science, because I thought it would help me think about design in a fundamentally different way, and it did. And I think looking to living systems, my own research looks at how principles of living systems can inform a different way of designing. So I couldn't agree with you more, but I would say I think it needs to be organismic biology. I think it needs to not be reductionist science so much as the science that is looking at how systems, ecosystems, natural systems cooperate instead of compete. And principles of emergence and self-organization are hugely important, I think, for the kind of work that we want to do here.
I would also add to that. I think when we think about living systems and living services, I think it's less about the idea that something will live and something will die, but it's a mindset as well, right? And it's the idea that it's really about an organic and fluid evolution that's happening slowly, right? So I think that if you think about that mindset, things are always going to die, but I think that the idea would be that it wouldn't be sudden occurrences of when that would happen, but it would be part of the overall cycle that is continually happening.
Yeah, I suppose from our perspective, we're looking at how the government policy that can be influenced in a way that aligns more with that. So I suppose it's actually helping governments to understand the role of design as a way to engage with your electorate and build that into the policies and the design of those policies that you introduce. I mean, I don't know if I've got an exact answer to like the specific question in follow-ups to the others on the panel here, but I think that would be our look and our take on that. And I think that the example we gave around the hydrogen car is quite a good example. The company there, the business model that's being developed is all around an innovative supply chain. So the supply chain itself rents the parts to the company. and when they wear out, they take them back and recycle them. And so every part on that car is hired. So I think it's through government policies and changes to the way that government policies are implemented, it enables things like that to happen. But without policy change, you don't get those changes further down the line. And whether that's in design or whether it's in science or wherever that sits, I think that would be our take on that.
So I'm afraid I have to cut it there. So please join me in thanking the panel, the final panel for the day.
Thank you.